our land, glorious and free. O Canada, we stand on guard for thee. O Canada, we stand on guard for thee.
Bravo.
Que l'on ouvre les portes. Statements by members. Déclaration de députés. The Honourable Member for Mississauga, Aaron Mills.
Mr. Speaker, on behalf of the small businesses in Mississauga, Aaron Mills, I'd like to thank this government for the incredible support provided this pandemic. The Canada Emergency Business Account has provided loans to organizations like the GEMS Learning Institute, which allowed them to continue providing STEM education for youth this summer. The Canada Emergency Wage Subsidy has covered up to 65% of wages for the loyal staff of Mulligan's Irish Pub. And just this week, we rolled out the Canada Emergency Rent Subsidy, covering up to 65% of commercial rent and other expenses for businesses such as Orchid Nails. Mr. Speaker, these programs are a vital lifeline for small business owners in my riding and across the country. As we continue to weather the second wave of this pandemic and plan for Canada's recovery, I know that small businesses will continue to be a priority for our government. Thank you.
The Honourable Member for Steveston, Richmond East.
Last year, the Richmond Christmas Fund helped brighten the holidays for nearly 3,000 of our neighbours in need, including over 1,200 children and youth and 300 seniors, enabling them to enjoy a festive holiday celebration with family and friends. This holiday season, the fund continues to ensure those experiencing financial hardship can share in the holiday spirit. For the outpouring of generosity, I'd like to thank the fund's angel donors for helping surpass donations and set another record year amidst the pandemic. Platinum Proclaims Restoration's Tony Scott, Herbal and Naturals Aisha Yang, and Musharraf Saeed. Pacific Gateway Hotels Ida Kut, Auto West Group's Jackim Newman, Richmond Auto Malls Association Gail Terry, TD Canada Trust Tony Maru, Petty Martin Real Estate Group Petty Martin, Sage Foundation's David Chang, and Fanny Lagan. Canadian Tire Richmond's Terry Sanford and Sean Destero. Thank you. Happy holidays. Happy Hanukkah. Merry Christmas.
The Honourable Member for Berthier-Masquinongé. Mr. Speaker, it's the time of truth. The Bloc tabled a bill to end supply management interference. They've adopted unanimous motions with all parliamentarians voting in favor of full support for supply management. The farmers saw the Liberals betray them. They promised them compensation but haven't paid them anything. The Conservatives had made promises, even though they were responsible for many other issues. It's the time for truth. Farmers are watching us, and it's time to vote for them, like they're asking us to. They need to know who they can count on to see who will vote for them once and for all, to not butcher supply management. That's what the test is. The Honourable Member for Vimy. Mr. Speaker, on Remembrance Day, I had the opportunity to meet with representatives of Branch 251 of the Royal Canadian Legion, Cadet Corps from my riding of Vimy, and others from the city of Laval, including squadrons from Cadet Corps 2650 Châteauguay, 687 Richelieu, 784 St. Vincent de Paul, and 100 Laval.
53,000 young Canadians participate in the Canadian Army, Sea and Air Cadets. These programs allow youth to develop physical fitness, leadership skills, and good citizenship.
I would like to recognize the important work done by all cadets in communities across Canada, and I encourage all Canadian youth to consider joining a local cadet branch in their community. It's an unforgettable experience. The Honourable Member for Alfred Pélan. Mr. Speaker, on December 5th, we will mark International Volunteer Day, and I am getting a head start on celebrating Alfred Pélan's volunteers. There's a long list, but to name just a few, I'd like to thank the volunteers of the Cité de la Santé, those of the Centre d'écoute of Laval, and the youth of JYL. During the pandemic, our volunteers were on the front lines to ensure that our community remained tightly woven during this crisis by redoubling their efforts to support the vulnerable organizations and members of my riding. They brightened the lives of our seniors during the darkest days. They helped out in the kitchen to feed those in need. And they gave their time to listen and soothe the distress of our community. Today, I would like to thank them from the bottom of my heart. You are our guardian angels.
L'honorable député.
The Honourable Member for Montmagny, Liselet, Kamouraska, Rivière-du-Loup. I would like to take my hat off today to all the chambers of commerce, particularly those in Rivière-du-Loup, for their initiatives to promote local purchasing as the holiday season approaches. Many entrepreneurs in my riding struggle to focus on celebrations because their business situations have been tragic. I'd also like to highlight the audacity of these organizations who are raising funds for those in need. They are putting together ingenious charitable activities, takeout meals, services for refugees, and other virtual things. And it's time to roll up our sleeves and encourage our business owners. I would like to give my support to all volunteers who are preparing food baskets for families who would never thought they would have to ask for food during these harder times. My team and I are here for you, and we wish you all very happy holidays, despite the circumstances, Mr. Speaker. The Honourable Member for Laval-les-Îles. Mr. Speaker, I would like to underscore the crucial importance of the French language for us, for all Quebecers, and for all Canadians. The French language is a unique and distinguished language. It symbolizes our history, our roots, and reveals our culture, our living environment, and our origins. French is essential to the survival of our identity and of our communities. It is our right to have access to all services in French, to be well served in Canada in one of our two official languages. French, the language of Molière, is a great wealth for our country. We must not only protect this heritage of our ancestors, but also defend it and promote it in Canada and around the world. Mr. Speaker, I am proud to speak French. Speaking French is a wealth, and it's something we are proud of. Thank you. The Honourable Member for Lac-Saint-Louis.
Involvement of selfless individuals who give their time and energy, heart and soul to local causes and organizations. Antoinette Scarano was such an individual. Antoinette's contributions to West Island life were remarkable for their variety and for their long-standing involvement she maintained with the organizations she helped. Whether as a member of the boards of Light a Dream, Carrefour Jeunesse Emploi de l'Ouest de l'Île, Action Jeunesse de l'Ouest de l'Île, the Ricochet Youth Homeless Shelter Project, or the West Island Chamber of Commerce, or as a work-study coordinator with the Lester B. Pearson School Board, Antoinette was committed to building a more resilient community. The West Island has lost an engaged citizen who could light up a room with her smile and motivate by her example of service. To Antoinette's husband, Renato, daughter, Roseanne, and son, Andrew, we offer our deepest condolences.
The Honourable Member for Desite, Mississippi Churchill River.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, it is a privilege today to rise and honour the life of Fred Sasakamoose, who passed away yesterday. Fred was a trailblazer, becoming the first First Nations person to play in the NHL. After his last game of junior hockey, a telegram was read in the dressing room. It said, "Please report immediately to the Chicago Blackhawks to play in the NHL in Toronto on Hockey Night in Canada." Fred's words describe the story best. "I was warming up on the ice, and somebody skated up to me and said, 'Somebody wants to talk to you over there.' He says, "I'd never seen Foster Hewitt in my life. He was just on the radio." Foster asked, "How do you pronounce your name? Is it Saskatchewan Moose or Saskatoon Moose?" Fred went on to be a champion for his people, and his family can always be proud of his many accomplishments. Mr. Speaker, I ask all members to join me today in recognizing the life and the legacy of Fred Saskatchewan.
The honourable member for Ottawa South.
Mr. Speaker, despite all the challenges we have faced this year, democracy is alive and well in my riding of Ottawa South. During this COVID crisis, our local community associations have come together to assist those in need. Neighbours helping neighbours, looking out for each other. I've had the privilege of joining many of their virtual annual general meetings, and I want to sincerely thank their members and executive committees for their tireless efforts, especially at this difficult time. Thank you to the Alta Vista, Canterbury, Eastway Gardens, Elmvale Acres, Faircrest Heights, Fairlie, Heron Park, Hunt Club Park, Ridgemont, Riverside Park, Riverview Park, and South Keys Greenboro Community Associations. I'm so very proud to represent you and look forward to continuing to work with you in 2021. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for Edmonton Mill Woods.
Mr. Speaker, I did not grow up around hunting or sport shooting. In fact, when I was a kid, I asked my dad to go camping, and he said that he did not move to Canada to go cook and sleep outside. But I know how important it is for people in my riding and right across Canada to own firearms and use them in a safe and lawful manner. It's a way of life, Mr. Speaker. Which is why last week I went to the Phoenix Gun Range in Edmonton to start the process of taking the Canadian Firearms Safety course and getting my PALs. The reality is, banning firearms used by law-abiding citizens does nothing to stop the dangerous criminals who obtain their guns illegally. The vast majority of gun crimes are committed with illegally obtained guns, something that the Liberals have failed to address. Mr. Speaker, I encourage all members of this House to learn about the regulations law-abiding firearms owners face. Only then can we have an evidence-based approach to this issue.
The honourable member for Barrie Innisfil.
As we mark the 15th anniversary of Victims and Survivors of Crime Week, I stand today to recognize the challenges facing victims, survivors, their families, and the dedicated, hard-working professional service providers, advocates, and volunteers who support them. This year's theme, Celebrating Courage, Renewing Commitment, is a reminder of the tremendous strength of individuals as they endure through each day. I also recognize the unique challenges posed by the COVID-19 pandemic and sincerely thank the countless individuals who have stepped up to continue delivering effective services in these difficult times. The pandemic has reminded us how important it is that victims continue to be supported and heard. I honor their great courage and resilience to come forward and speak about their experiences. We must always ensure victims have access to meaningful supports, information, and assistance. This week reminds us to continue our efforts to prevent crime and protect those who are the most vulnerable in our communities. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for Vancouver East.
On the International Day for the Elimination of Violence Against Women, let us all be reminded that the National Inquiry's final report concluded thousands of Indigenous women and girls are victims of a genocide. To end the genocide, the Government of Canada is required to, quote, fully and promptly implement all the calls for justice. Yet more than a year later, we still don't have an action plan led by Indigenous women as promised by the Prime Minister. This failure betrays the truths shared by survivors and their families. What's worse is that the government is using the pandemic as an excuse for delays. It's as if the Prime Minister is blind to the fact that the pandemic has made violence against women much worse. Calls for action to address poverty, economic inequality, and inadequate housing has been made repeatedly by numerous reports, including the Truth and Reconciliation Commission. No more delays, no more stolen sisters. The government must treat violence against women, especially Indigenous women, with the same urgency as its pandemic response.
The honourable member for Ballet-Chambly. Mr. Speaker, Quebec has lost an immense man today. He was very close to René Lévesque. And on behalf of the Bloc, I would like to offer my condolences. And I share the deep pain that his friends and family of Marc-André Bédard. My thoughts go out in particular to his son Stéphane, and I remember him at the National Assembly of Quebec. He was a founding member of the Parti Québécois. Mr. Bédard was a member of Chicoutimi, vice president, leader of the government, minister of justice, and a close friend of René Lévesque. He fought for his region of Saguenay, and he was involved in the regional economy and in the culture of his wonderful region. My Quebec friends, if Saguenay is a kingdom, today we have lost the patriarch of the royal family. Mr. Bédard, Quebec salutes you. The Honourable Member for Chicoutimi-Le-Fjord. Mr. Speaker, this morning Quebec lost a very important man from Saguenay-Lac-Saint-Jean, Mr. Bédard, a former Minister of Justice and close friend of René Lévesque, who passed away at 85 years of age. He was a lawyer and a wonderful speaker. He was very committed and established one of the foundations of the civil code in Quebec and worked on reforming family law. He also contributed to the development of aluminum in Chicoutimi. He was retired from politics, but I often run into him because he was always very kind and involved. I remember him very kindly, and I remember him as a wonderful example for all those in politics. Today, I offer my sincere condolences to his children and to his entire family. Thank you for your immense contribution, and we will remember you.
The Honourable Member for Kingston and the Islands.
Mr. Speaker, since 2015, this government has put a focus on gender equality in this House. And today, Mr. Speaker, we hit a major historical milestone in Parliament. As chair of the Ontario Liberal Caucus, it is my honour to welcome two strong female voices into this House today. Mr. Speaker, for the first time in Parliament's history, this House is officially represented by 100 females from across our country. Mr. Speaker, I hope all members of this House will help me in welcoming the two new members from Toronto Centre and York Centre today.
I have the honour to inform the House that the Clerk of the House has received from the Chief Electoral Officer a certificate of the election and return of Miss Ian, Member for Electoral District of Toronto Centre.
Mr. Speaker, I have the honour to present to you Marcy Ian, Member of the Electoral District of Toronto Centre, who has taken the oath, signed the roll, and now claims the right to take her seat. Monsieur le Président, j'ai l'honneur de vous présenter.
Mr. Speaker, I have the honour of presenting Marcy Ian, Member for the Electoral District of Toronto Centre, who has taken the oath, signed the roll, and now takes her seat.
Welcome. You may take your seat. You may take your seat. And welcome. We know. Thank you. Okay, we'll change that over. I have the honour to inform the House that the Clerk of the House has received from the Chief Electoral Officer a certificate for the election and return of Ms. Sachs, member for Electoral District York Centre.
Mr. Speaker, I have the honour to present to you Yara Sachs, member for the Electoral District of York Centre, who has taken the solemn affirmation, signed the roll, and now claims the right to take her seat. Monsieur le Président, j'ai l'honneur de...
Mr. Speaker, I have the honour to present to you Yara Sachs, member for the Electoral District of York Centre, who has taken the solemn affirmation, signed the roll, and now claims the right to take her seat.
And welcome to the House of Commons. You may now take your seat. Questions. Question orale. Oral questions. The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, months ago, Conservatives began raising alarms that Canadians would get vaccines after many other countries. Yesterday, the Prime Minister acknowledged we were right. The Centre for Disease Control has said that the first Americans will receive a COVID-19 in the next 2 weeks. Why did this Prime Minister sign deals that placed Canadians months behind Americans for getting a COVID-19 vaccine?
The Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, over the past months, experts have worked with this government to put Canadians in the very best possible position on vaccines. We now have the best, most diverse portfolio of vaccines anywhere in the world, including agreements with all of the leading vaccine candidates for more doses per capita than just about any other country. We are continuing to work with experts on a rollout plan, and we have faith in our top scientists and doctors as we take a whole-of-government approach to delivering vaccines for Canadians as soon as possible.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, so far we know that Canada will receive its vaccine only after the United States, the United Kingdom, Germany, France, India, Indonesia. The list goes on. The combined population of countries ahead of Canada in the distribution line is almost 2.5 billion people. Mr. Speaker, to the nearest 100 million, can the Prime Minister tell the House how many vaccines will be delivered to the rest of the world before a delivery is made to Canada?
Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, from the beginning of this pandemic, we have worked with top scientists and experts to deliver to Canadians the very best help possible, whether it was making sure we had the right PPE, whether we move forward on the right support for our treatments and medical system, and as we move forward on vaccines, which I know everyone is eagerly awaiting because that'll signal the beginning of the end of this pandemic. Well, this summer, our experts came together and recommended a portfolio of vaccines that have actually put Canada at the very top in terms of per capita doses, and those very experts are ensuring that we roll out vaccines to all Canadians.
Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Speaker, yesterday the Prime Minister admitted the beginning of the end of the pandemic starts later in Canada. The Minister of Procurement has said that Health Canada approvals could also delay vaccine distribution even more. The Prime Minister has previously said it's not his job to ensure rapid tests and other things are approved rapidly. So I want to know, Mr. Speaker, does this Prime Minister think it is his job to get a vaccine approved quickly? Yes or no?
Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, as I've said, we are working to ensure that Canadians have vaccines as quickly as possible, and indeed that was part of why we worked with experts to ensure that we have the best possible portfolio of vaccines, including more doses per capita than just about any other country. The Minister of Procurement has worked extremely hard and is delivering on that. We also know that there are three of the top vaccine candidates that are currently now being examined by by Health Canada for approvals. We are doing that, as is done, to be safe for Canadians and to make sure we can get vaccines quickly.
The Leader of the Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, the Quebec Minister of Health made a specific request to the federal government. He requested a clear and quick plan to be presented on vaccine distribution. The provinces need such a plan in their fight against COVID-19. Unfortunately, 10 months later, the PM has admitted that he does not have a plan. Will the Prime Minister make his vaccine distribution plan public? And if so, when? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, from the very beginning, we have delivered on a plan to protect Canadians. That plan has ended up with us having the best vaccine portfolio in the world, with more doses per capita than any other country. We have done the work to have access to vaccines. And now we are working with the provinces and our partners to deliver those vaccines to Canadians. We will continue to work with experts, and we will have more to say about this in the weeks to come. The Honourable Leader of the Opposition. Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister said he was in favour of Bill 101. That's a first for a party that has always challenged that legislation. The Conservatives have proposed concrete measures like applying Bill 101 to federally regulated businesses. Quebecers want more than pretty words from this government, Mr. Speaker. Will this Liberal government apply Bill 101 to federally regulated enterprises? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. As a proud Quebecer, Mr. Speaker, I've always known that the best way to ensure that Canada remains bilingual is to have a Quebec that remains majoritarily francophone. And that is what this government has been working for some time. But I don't appreciate having the Conservatives preach to us about protecting French, given that they have opposed only appointing bilingual judges to the Supreme Court. They support appointing unilingual Anglophone judges to the Supreme Court. We're not there anymore, Mr. Speaker. We're going to protect French in Quebec and elsewhere in Canada. The Honourable Member for Belleuil-Chambly. I would like to thank the Leader of the official opposition for telling us that he will be voting for the Bloc bill. And I would also like to mention the Health Minister of Quebec, who wrote to the federal government in October, but he did not receive a response to that letter. The committee that's discussing health is avoiding the topic of the vaccine. It seems like there's something to hide, and yet there are solutions. The Prime Minister told us that mass production of the vaccine was impossible, and yet some are saying that that's not true. We could have produced emergency vaccines that would have been ready before those we're going to receive from abroad. It's not a matter of how much, it's a matter of when. Can the Prime Minister recognize that his strategy is a failure when it comes to protecting the most vulnerable Canadians? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, we have been working with experts from the very beginning in order to deliver for Canadians. That's what has enabled us to have access to more per capita doses of the vaccines than any other country in the world. And that is also why we have a concrete plan to work with provinces and territories and our partners in order to deliver those vaccines as soon as they are ready. We will work with experts who have established these plans because on this side of the House, we believe in experts and scientists throughout the country. The Honourable Member for Belleuil-Chambly. This is not about how many doses we have per capita. This is a matter of those who need it urgently. Anyone can understand the difference there. Canada has an approval process that generally takes a bit longer than elsewhere in the world. And frequently that's justified because it's a long-term perspective. But in this case, we're talking about an emergency. In this context, every day counts. In order to speed up the process, would this Prime Minister consider harmonizing Canada's approval processes with its international allies? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, our experts and scientists in the country are working hard on COVID-19. Vaccine experts have made recommendations to us, and that is what has led us I would just say to have the best vaccine portfolio in the world when it comes to having access to various different potential vaccines. We will continue to work with experts and with our domestic partners. Last summer, in fact, I made an announcement on investments in Montreal that will ultimately allow us to manufacture vaccines. We will continue to invest. Coming after a conservative government which underinvested in science and research and development, we will continue to be there to deliver for Canadians. The Honourable Member for Burnaby South. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Everyone is scared of COVID-19. The number of cases is going up. Announcements of a vaccine have given people hope. But then we heard from the Prime Minister that these vaccines cannot be produced in Canada. But in August, the Prime Minister announced that the National Research Council would be capable of producing vaccines. What has changed? Canadians need an answer. Canadians need a plan. What is the plan for getting vaccines to Canadians right away? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Indeed, Mr. Speaker, I was very proud to make an announcement for the National Research Council in August, an announcement about investing in Canadian vaccine production capacity. When it comes to emergency situations, that program will be implemented for next summer or fall. But meanwhile, we will be working with our international and domestic partners in order to ensure that Canada has access to tens of millions of doses of vaccines when those vaccines will start becoming available.
Burnaby South.
We are in the middle of a second wave. People are deeply afraid, desperately afraid of what that means for their family, with COVID-19 cases on the rise. The announcement of vaccines gave people hope, but when the Prime Minister said we're not able to produce it in Canada, people were afraid again. The Prime Minister announced in the summer that the National Council of Research could produce vaccines, but now it seems like we can't. We need to know what the plan is. Canadians are worried and afraid. They need to know that there's a clear plan with dates, how these vaccines will be delivered. What is the plan?
Right Honourable Prime Minister.
I'm very pleased that the member opposite actually read the press release from last summer. He just didn't read the whole thing. It is an investment and a commission to build a vaccine manufacturing facility at the Royal Mount National Research Council facility in Montreal, but we are still in construction of that facility. We have made investments to stand up more biomanufacturing capacity in Canada after 10 long years of a Conservative government that saw most of our vaccine manufacturers cut their production and indeed leave Canada. We will continue to invest in science. We will deliver vaccines to Canadians.
The Honourable Member for Calgary Nose Hill.
Did the Prime Minister and his government even bother to negotiate the right for Canada to manufacture the leading vaccine candidates here in Canada?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, around the world, various parliaments and governments are having to explain to their citizens and to their oppositions why Canada has done so much better than them on getting a better portfolio of vaccines, on getting more doses per capita than their countries were able to. So Canada has negotiated through working and relying on experts and scientists making recommendations, an excellent portfolio of vaccines with tens of millions of doses for Canadians. And those scientists and researchers are working very quickly to get those vaccines as soon as possible to Canadians.
Well, member for Calgary Nose Hill.
Well, it doesn't matter what portfolio of vaccines that we have if Canadians can't get it until 2030. Exactly. The Prime Minister didn't answer the question I just asked him, which is very material. He says he's spent all this money on developing vaccine manufacturing capacity. Did he, his industry minister, his procurement minister, whoever, even bother to negotiate the rights for us to manufacture those vaccines here at home?
The Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, allow me to reassure anyone who actually might have listened to or might tend to believe anything the member opposite just said. We will get those vaccines well in advance of what dates she is offering up, which I won't even repeat. We have signed and secured vaccine delivery contracts for 2021 with tens of millions of doses. We know how important it is to deliver for them quickly. And in signing the contracts, yes, we looked at different ways of ensuring domestic production as much as we were able to. But that, unfortunately, is not something we can move forward on.
The honourable member for Calgary Nose Hill.
Mr. Speaker, the one thing that I notice about the Prime Minister is whenever we ask him direct questions and he can't answer, the first thing that he does is impugn the character of strong women. And that's wrong and that's sexist. Instead of saying to me what I shouldn't believe or what I don't know, answer the question. Exactly. Did you even bother to negotiate the right for Canada to manufacture these vaccines at home? Did you? Do we have the ability to do this? And when are Canadians going to get these vaccines?
I want to remind the honourable members to place their questions through the Speaker and not directly to the person. And, of course, the answers have to go through the Speaker as well. The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. As I said, Canada has the best portfolio of vaccine purchase in the world, including 2 domestic vaccine candidates, Vito Intervac and Medicago. But the member opposite was asking what happened to domestic manufacturing in Canada. The Conservative government happened to domestic manufacturing. In 2007, AstraZeneca and Bristol Myers closed their Canadian manufacturing operations. In 2010, Johnson & Johnson and Merck's Montreal Research Centres closed their facilities. In 2011, Teva closed one of its Canadian manufacturing operations. In 2012, AstraZeneca, GSK, and Sanofi announced closings and layoffs. That is what happened to manufacturing.
The honourable member for Chicoutimi-de-Fjord. Mr. Speaker, I was pleasantly surprised when, after our questions yesterday, we were finally able to table our motion at the Official Languages Committee. After several weeks of Liberal filibustering, the bill on modernizing official languages needs to be tabled by the 11th of December. Mr. Speaker, will the Prime Minister commit to respecting the will of the members of the committee who unanimously adopted this motion? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, in this government, we have an excellent Minister of Official Languages who has been working to deliver and to protect French throughout the country, but particularly in Quebec, because we have underscored how important that is. In the last throne speech, we underscored that, and we can assure the House that we are moving forward with the eagerly expected modernization of the Official Languages Act. The honourable member for Richmond, North Athabasca. Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister and his minister have been beating around the bush for weeks and are refusing to table a bill on both official languages before Christmas. We learned in the media this morning that the minister is instead preparing a white paper for next year. The problem is that all of these consultations have already been done. All the consultations are done. All the recommendations have been made. The Senate, the official languages commissioners, experts, so on. We don't need more white papers. We don't need more consultations. We need the legislation by Christmas. Period. That's it. That's all. The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, we will always protect and promote our 2 official languages. That is why we modified the census questionnaire for a full list of rights holders. That is why we are protecting the Ontario French Language University, and we are going to invest large sums in protecting French language communities. That is why we are only appointing bilingual justices to the Supreme Court, something that the Conservatives refused to do. As we stated in the throne speech, we are committed to protecting French both in Quebec and elsewhere in the country. And we will continue to work hard on modernizing the Official Languages Act.
The opposition.
Mr. Speaker, the Liberals wish to table a white paper on official languages. But recently, there was a unanimous motion at the National Assembly asking that Bill 101 be applied to federally regulated businesses. We know that many Liberal leaders in Montreal have always fought against Bill 101. Will the Prime Minister support the National Assembly of Quebec or the Liberal members of his party who doubt that Bill 101 is a good idea? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, you may understand that I have trouble taking the Conservative Party seriously when it comes to protecting the French language. Will the Conservative Party commit to only appointing French-speaking justices to the Supreme Court? because that is a commitment that we have taken in the Liberal Party. We have delivered as a Liberal government 3 times already, Mr. Speaker, and we will continue to do so. Will the Conservative Party commit to only appointing French-speaking justices to the Supreme Court, yes or no? The honourable member for Belleuil-Chambly. The French language, vaccines, Mr. Speaker, clearly the Prime Minister is leaving far too much to next year. And yet he is at the top of the pyramid of power. And ultimately, he has the responsibility of protecting vulnerable people's health, safety, and ultimately their lives. He seems incapable of telling us when we will get vaccines. He tells us that it's somewhere between a somewhat later and a good deal later. A lot can happen in that time. He could produce authorization for vaccine manufacturing. Why hasn't he? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, since the very beginning of this pandemic, we have faced many challenges and issues. We needed to deliver assistance to Canadians really quickly throughout the country with CERB and the wage subsidy, with assistance to small business. We had to deliver PPE throughout the country. We needed to work with provinces and territories so that they could protect their citizens. And we worked with experts as well in order to get the best contracts on vaccines of any country in the world. We will continue to work with our experts, and we will continue to deliver for Quebecers and all Canadians. The honourable member for Belleuil-Chambly. Mr. Speaker, I'm not interested in the Prime Minister's justifications for his failure. I'm more interested in solutions. He needs to be accountable to Parliament, that's clear. But ultimately, things look bleak. Delays may last for months. His choices have led to failure. He could have allowed for production of the vaccine. Is this because in the agreements that he signed, he committed to not licensing vaccine production in Canada? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, at every stage of this pandemic, we counted on expert opinion, scientists, those who are familiar with vaccines, as well as vaccine procurement. We listened to experts and those who are familiar with the field. They are the ones who delivered an excellent plan, in fact, the best plan in the world when it comes to vaccine production and distribution. We will continue to work with experts to ensure that these vaccines reach Canadians as quickly as possible. We will deliver with a concrete plan that will help Canadians, and together we are going to get through this pandemic.
Member for Edmonton Centre.
Mr. Speaker, yesterday the Prime Minister tried to excuse his failures by saying that Canada doesn't have any domestic production capacity for vaccines. Did he just realize that we've been in a pandemic for 8 months? The Prime Minister has admitted that Canadians getting first access to a vaccine was not the priority for this Liberal government. So then why on earth, Mr. Speaker, did the Prime Minister give $173 million to a Quebec company, Medecaco, to develop a vaccine and manufacturing facility and then state we don't have any production capacity?
Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, every step of the way we have worked with the top experts in this country to ensure that Canada is best positioned as possible to get through this pandemic. That's why we have invested in pharmaceutical companies. We have invested to restore Canada's biomanufacturing capacities after 10 years of Conservative government saw most of the manufacturers leave this country. We're continuing to invest in science and research despite the years of neglect by the previous government. We will ensure that Canadians get vaccines as quickly as possible. We get through this pandemic together.
Honourable member for Edmonton Centre.
Mr. Speaker, that doesn't help today. The Prime Minister's had 8 months to deal with this. I have a son who's compromised and worries every day about his health and the health of his caregivers. No rapid tests, no vaccine access, no manufacturing. The Prime Minister has said that the citizens of vaccine manufacturing countries will likely get the vaccine before manufacturers ship internationally. Let's ask him again. Did the Prime Minister even bother to negotiate the right to manufacture the leading vaccines in Canada?
Yes or no? Yes, sir.
Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, every step of the way, we have trusted experts and scientists to make the right decisions to keep Canadians safe. We have followed those advices. We have made sure that we're delivering for Canadians. But I would ask the member opposite, who understands how important it is to protect every single life, why the Leader of the Opposition took part in events in Alberta without masks or distancing. Why his colleague, the MP for Lethbridge, downplayed this week the number of deaths in Alberta, or why the MP for Niagara West compared COVID to the flu just a few weeks ago. Mr. Speaker, on this side of the House, we respect science.
Honorable député de Charbon-Haute-Saint.
The honourable member for Charbon-Saint-Charles. Mr. Speaker, for weeks, the Prime Minister has been saying that other countries are envious because Canada has more hundreds of millions of vaccines. But listen, we don't need 8 vaccines each. 2 would do the job just fine. Now, we want an answer. Did the Prime Minister forget to negotiate for vaccine production in Canada? Yes or no? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, let me seize this opportunity to explain to my honourable colleague that indeed we have signed many agreements with different companies because indeed it's a new vaccine. And we don't know which vaccine will be the most effective in different age groups, which vaccine will lead to production or delivery challenges. And that is why this government listened to experts. And that is why we signed agreements with many, many companies in order to be certain that when the vaccine becomes available, Canadians will get safe, effective doses so that we can get through this pandemic. The honourable member. Well, Mr. Speaker, there are 2 things I see with this answer: a failure of negotiation and an operational failure. Currently, there are vaccines that will soon be approved. So why are other countries, big countries, getting this vaccine much sooner than Canada? Can the Prime Minister explain this? People want to know. Once again, I would just like to remind members to place their questions through the chair and not ask the questions directly. We know that very often people get carried away, and we don't want to lead to any problems in the House. The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. As my honourable colleague very well knows, we have signed a large number of agreements with a variety of companies in order to have as many vaccines as possible for Canadians, because we know that that is how we are going to get through this pandemic. We are going to continue working with experts in order to ensure the vaccines are safe and to ensure that Canadians have access to vaccines as quickly as possible. And I would also say that 3 very promising vaccines are currently being studied by Health Canada so that they may be delivered as quickly as possible to Canadians.
Member for Burnaby South.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the outbreaks of COVID-19 in Nunavut could have dire consequences for the people of Nunavut, who are already faced with historic underfunding when it comes to health care. We've written a letter to the Prime Minister asking the Prime Minister to deliver all help necessary, including more protective equipment and more testing to help the people of Nunavut. Will the Prime Minister commit to doing everything within his power to help protect the people of Nunavut?
Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Yes, Mr. Speaker. From the very beginning, we've been working closely with the Northern Premiers, including Premier Savikatak of Nunavut, to ensure that they get all the support they need. We've ensured that northern and remote communities have the resources they need, with 3,792 rapid tests shipped, with 771,000 items of PPE shipped, $13 million through the Safe Restart Agreement, $130 million in funding, federal funding to address health, economic, transportation priorities across the 3 territories. I'm in regular communication with the Nunavut government. I spoke to the Premier last week, and we're continuing to assist the government any way necessary.
Well, member for Burnaby South.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, many of the hardest hit communities in our country, like Brampton, are communities that are probably predominantly racialized with frontline essential workers. These are the people that deliver the goods that help feed our families, that keep us safe. They don't need to be blamed, they need to be supported. Brampton and many other communities like Brampton have been underfunded when it comes to healthcare. They've been in a healthcare crisis before the pandemic. So will this government, will the Prime Minister commit to providing the adequate funding for healthcare and resources and testing that Brampton and Hardy communities need?
Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, over $25 billion. That's the money we transferred directly to the provinces to help them with the safe restart, with getting kids back to school, with supporting their health systems, to protecting the most vulnerable. And that is on top, Mr. Speaker, of the money we sent directly to citizens across the country to replace lost income because of COVID-19, lost jobs because of COVID-19, to support small businesses in Brampton, Mississauga, and right across the country who've had to close down. We've moved forward with the unanimous consent of this House on extra helps for commercial rent supports up to 90% where places were closed down.
The Honourable Member for Saint-Léonard, Saint-Michel. Mr. Speaker, today is International Day for the Elimination of Violence Against Women and the start of 16 days of activism against gender-based violence. It's an opportunity to reflect on the devastating effects that gender-based violence continues to have on individuals, families, and communities from coast to coast to coast, and to renew our commitment to end violence against women, girls, and people of all gender identities and expressions. Could the Prime Minister tell the House what our government is doing to end gender-based violence and help survivors all across the country? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I'd like to thank the member for Saint-Léonard Saint-Michel for her question on behalf of her commitments, constituents. In order to support people and make sure no one is left out, our government has allocated $100 million in emergency funding for shelters, sexual assault survivor centres, and other organizations serving people living with violence. Today and every day, we commit to put an end to gender-based violence in all its forms, and we recognize that during the COVID-19 crisis, it's even harder for people, and we will be there to help them.
Mississippi, Churchill River.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The second wave is overwhelming many Indigenous communities, and they are concerned that this government does not have a plan. Ensuring vulnerable populations and communities have access to a vaccine must be a priority. This Prime Minister was slow on the border, slow to make up his mind on masks, slow to get rapid tests, and now Canadians are worried these last-minute Liberals were too slow in securing vaccines. Mr. Speaker, when will the Prime Minister outline his plan to ensure Indigenous communities have access to a vaccine?
Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, we've seen an alarming rise in the number of COVID-19 cases across Canada, particularly in Indigenous communities. We've ensured Indigenous communities have what they need to fight and prevent the spread of COVID-19, including $2.4 billion to support Indigenous families, students, businesses, communities, and organizations. We've processed more than 1,300 PPE shipments. We will continue to work hand-in-hand with community leadership and are ready to provide additional support as needed, including as we move forward in rolling out vaccines to the communities most in need.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, we've heard horror stories about the government's attempts to roll out PPE deliveries and COVID-19 testing. Members of the James Smith Cree First Nation were told by Indigenous Services staff to sew their own masks. This government, Mr. Speaker, sent PPE to China and told Indigenous Canadians to sew their own masks. Will the Prime Minister have a real plan to ensure vaccine distribution to First Nation communities are a priority, or will they once again be told to fend for themselves?
Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, from the beginning of this pandemic, this government has stepped up in partnership with Indigenous communities to ensure that that first wave did not hit them particularly hard, and that throughout this second wave, we continue to be there for them. We will continue to be there to support communities across Manitoba, for example, that are suffering a terrible spike in that province. Communities across the prairies facing challenges right now. The federal government will continue to be there to work with them, to protect them, to support them, and we will continue to do so with experts as we roll out vaccines to the most vulnerable populations.
The Honourable Member for Battleford's Lloydminster.
Mr. Speaker, COVID cases are rapidly rising and long-term care is in crisis today. The time to wait for supports is over. Yet long-term care continues to be left out of federal programs. Still, there is no adequate access to rapid testing, and now Canada is falling behind the pack in receiving a COVID-19 vaccine. Long-term care residents, their families, and those who care for them are owed much better. Mr. Speaker, where is the Liberal government's detailed plan on testing and vaccine deployment?
Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, from the very beginning, we have worked hand in hand with the provinces to support them in their areas of jurisdiction. We sent over $25 billion to provinces to ensure safe back to schools for kids and to support the most vulnerable, including people in long-term care facilities. We sent the Canadian Armed Forces and the Red Cross to support the provinces in their work to keep seniors safe in long-term care facilities. And we will ensure, as we move forward on vaccine rollouts, that we're working again with the provinces to protect those who most need it when on delivery of vaccines.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, seniors have been the hardest hit Canadians during the COVID-19 crisis. They've been isolated from their families for weeks at a time. They've waited months for rapid testings in their community and in long-term care facilities. Now they're going to be waiting months as other countries get vaccines before Canada. How many more outbreaks will Canadian long-term care homes experience because this Prime Minister didn't get priority access to a COVID-19 vaccine?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, from the very beginning, we have been there to support our seniors, and we will continue to do that. We've worked with the provinces to support them in their work in keeping seniors safe in long-term care facilities. We respect provincial jurisdiction, but we're also able to step up and provide extra supports so provinces can do more to prevent outbreaks in long-term care homes, whether it was billions of dollars to protect the most vulnerable, whether it was supports with extra PPE, whether it's moving forward to share best practices and move towards national standards. We will continue to be there to protect our seniors, particularly around vaccines.
The Honourable Member for La Pointe de l'Île. Mr. Speaker, when it comes to Bill 101 and federally regulated businesses, the Liberals talk out of both sides of their mouth. There's the Minister of Official Languages who says they'll do everything they can to protect French. And then there's the other gang, including the member for Mount Royal, who thinks this is all shameful. The Prime Minister has to choose sides. Is his government going to choose action and vote with the Bloc Québécois to extend Bill 101 to cover federally regulated workplaces? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. As a proud Montrealer and Quebecer, I made that choice a long time ago, Mr. Speaker. We will always stand up to protect the French language all across Canada, including in Quebec. We recognize that in order for Canada to be bilingual as a country, we have to have a Quebec that is first and foremost French-speaking. And I'd like to point out all the efforts we've made over the years to protect the French fact in Canada. And we're working with the government of Quebec to protect French in Quebec as well. The Honourable Member for La Pointe de l'Île. That's the problem, Mr. Speaker. The Prime Minister isn't willing to actually do anything. When you look at his record, there's no difference between him and the member for Saint Laurent, who feels the decline of French is a grossly exaggerated myth. The Prime Minister has to choose between defending French and defending a small group in his party who look down on French. Is he going to choose action and vote to protect French? Or is he going to opt for inaction and the decline of French like the member of Saint Laurent and company? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, our federal government has always been there to protect the French fact all across Canada, including in Quebec, and we will keep doing that to protect French. We will continue, for example, to only appoint bilingual judges to the Supreme Court. We will keep working to defend the French language through institutions, through investments in culture, through the protection of this incredible source of wealth that French is all across Canada, and particularly in French. We're proud of our record investments in Quebec culture, and we will continue doing this.
On August 24th, 2015, in Belleville, Ontario, someone made this promise. No veteran will be forced to fight their own government for the support and compensation that they've earned. Yet, Since 2016, the person who said that has spent $43.5 million fighting veterans and their families in court, forcing them to fight for the support and compensation that they've earned. Well, whoever made that promise and broke it, please stand up and explain to veterans and their families why he broke that promise.
Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, service delivery and support to veterans and their families has been our priority from the very beginning. Since 2016, we've invested nearly $10.5 billion in new money for our veterans and their families. This funding was invested in new centres of excellence on chronic pain and post-traumatic stress disorder, on increased financial compensation and more. That stands in stark contrast to the Conservative approach, including from the Leader of the Opposition, which was to close offices, fire staff and gut Veterans Affairs while nickel-and-diming them and using them for photo ops. Our veterans deserve better. That's what we're delivering on.
Full member for Barrie Innisfil.
Who used it for photo ops? Yet the Liberals keep fighting veterans and their families in court, and it continues. 1,400 veterans have filed a class action lawsuit. Veterans Charles Scott and John Dow, among many others, have their government fighting them in court for the support that they've earned. The benefits system for veterans is in complete chaos, and the responsibility for that lies at his feet. Like so many other promises that he made in 2015 and has since broken, will the Prime Minister explain to veterans and their families why he continues forcing them to fight in court for the support and compensation that they've earned?
Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, one of the very first promises we made to veterans when we were looking to take office in 2015 is that we would reopen the 9 Veterans Affairs offices heartlessly shuttered by the Conservatives, and that's exactly what we did. And on top of that, we invested over $10 billion in new money for veterans and their families to help them and their families through difficult times. That is what we are there for. We're continuing to pick up the pieces broken by years of Conservative neglect. We will continue to deliver for our veterans.
Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister should check. All of the veterans' offices are closed right now, in fact. Why isn't he not opening them up? Mr. Speaker, I was proud to work with veterans to settle lawsuits. He spent $40 million sending veterans to court. And this week, Legions testified that their late support is causing Legions across the country to close. Legions not only help our veterans, Mr. Speaker, better than this government clearly, they form strong communities. Record backlogs, wait times, a Prime Minister who doesn't keep his commitments. Does this Prime Minister still believe veterans are asking for more than he can give?
Honourable Prime Minister.
Jokes, Mr. Speaker. That's what the member opposite delivers for veterans in this House. Jokes about a pandemic and closures of veterans' offices. That is shameful, Mr. Speaker. But, Mr. Speaker, it's entirely consistent with what that Leader of the Opposition did when he was Minister for Veterans Affairs and what his predecessor, Julian Fantino, did when he was Minister of Affairs. They shut down veterans' offices, which we then reopened. We invested $10 billion in new money for veterans. We will be there for our veterans, unlike the things that they did for veterans.
The Honourable Member for Toronto Centre.
Mr. Speaker, I am immensely proud to rise in this House today to ask a question that is top of mind for my constituents in Toronto Centre, and I would say indeed all Canadians who are deeply concerned about how we are going to address climate change and how we can retool our economy for the future. Can the Prime Minister please update this House on how we can get to a cleaner future and a stronger economy?
Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I thank the member for Toronto Centre for an important question, and know she will proudly represent her constituents in this House for many years to come. Climate change remains one of the greatest challenges of our times. That is why last week we introduced the Net Zero Emissions Accountability Act, which lays out a framework of accountability and transparency to reach the goal of net zero emissions in a way that gives Canadians confidence. This is a fundamental step in our strategy to build a strong, resilient economy and future that works for everyone.
The Honourable Member, l'Honourable
The honourable member for Mégantic-L'Érable. Mr. Speaker, let's talk for a bit about supply management with the Prime Minister. The Liberals' compensation plan was announced just before the 2019 election. They promised to cut a cheque the day after the election, but since then, total silence. Not another word for the next 7 years. Not a word about compensation in 2020, with only 40 days to go till the end of the year. Not a word about 2021 all the way through to 26. It's a matter of respect. When is the Prime Minister going to pay out the promised compensation to dairy, egg and poultry producers? The Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, as we've always done, we've always defended our dairy producers and supply management. We have made $1.75 billion available for compensation, and this will be done before the end of the fiscal year. All dairy producers who've applied got a first installment. We will protect supply management in our negotiations of We did protect it during our new NAFTA negotiations, and we will continue to pay compensation as promised. The honourable member for Mégantic-L'Érable. It's important to point out that it's not just dairy producers who come under supply management. There's been a lot of talk, but no answers. Egg and poultry producers haven't seen a red cent nor any compensation plan, despite repeated promises from the Agriculture Minister. And for dairy processors, the same disturbing silence. Not even a hint about compensation under CUSMA. The Prime Minister gets all puffed up about defending supply management, but only talks about it when elections roll around again. Producers are sick and tired of waiting. Is the Prime Minister going to pay out the promised compensation? When are they going to get it? The Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, unlike the Conservative Party, the Liberal Party has always defended supply management. It's a system that we brought in over 40 years ago. It works very well for our farmers and producers, and we will always defend supply management. That's why when we had to renegotiate NAFTA, when the U.S. president wanted to dismantle supply management entirely, we held strong and defended our system and delivered compensation to our producers, and that's precisely what we're doing.
The opposition.
Monsieur le Président, le Parti libéral.
Mr. Speaker, the Liberal Party has made promises to everyone before it was elected. The problem is that they never keep them. They never deliver the goods, except for their Liberal cronies. Those left aside are farmers. The Liberals promised compensation under trade deals, and farmers are having a hard time. They're struggling, and they've given up enough. When will the Prime Minister keep his word? The Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, I'm very happy to hear the Leader of the Opposition raising the point that farmers are our friends, because they are, and we are keeping our promises to farmers. We've delivered $1.75 billion in potential compensation, and all those who applied got a first installment check. We will continue protecting supply management, and we will keep defending our dairy and poultry producers. We will be there to protect farmers all across Canada.
Member for York Centre.
Mr. Speaker, the community in my riding of York Centre is extremely concerned about the rise of anti-Semitism, online hate speech, and other forms of prejudice, which have been extremely exacerbated during this pandemic. Could the Prime Minister tell the House what our government is doing to combat anti-Semitism in Canada and around the world and honour the memory of the 6 million Jewish people murdered during the Holocaust?
Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I welcome the member for York Centre and her question and congratulate her for taking her seat in the House today. This government has repeatedly stated that anti-Semitism and Holocaust denial have absolutely no place in our society. Earlier today, we announced that the Honourable Irwin Cotler will be our new Special Envoy on preserving Holocaust remembrance and combating anti-Semitism. The Special Envoy will lead Canada's delegation to the International Holocaust Remembrance Alliance, advance Holocaust education, awareness and remembrance, all while taking meaningful action to combat anti-Semitism at home and abroad.
Honourable Member for Burnaby South.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. So the Liberals are announcing another plan for childcare. While it is vitally important that we have childcare, particularly in the recovery, given that women were disproportionately impacted, Don't mind me if I don't hold my breath, given the fact that Liberals have promised childcare since the 90s, since kids who needed childcare have grown up and have kids who now need childcare. So what we need is a concrete action plan. At least $2 billion to keep the existing childcare spaces open, and $10 billion a year to truly create a universal childcare plan. Will the government back up this announcement with real concrete action to deliver the childcare we need?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Speaker, we understand the immense pressure that COVID-19 has put on Canadian families, particularly on women. That's why investing more than $7.5 billion in early learning and childcare over the next decade is what we're going to do. This year alone, we've invested more than $1 billion to help provinces and territories with childcare, but we're not stopping there. In the speech from the throne, we committed to building on our investments and creating a Canada-wide early learning and childcare system. We will continue to work with the provinces and territories so that all families have access to the high-quality and affordable childcare they deserve.
That's all the time we have for today. C'est tout le temps que nous avons aujourd'hui.
That's all the time we have for today. I see a point of order. The Honourable Member for La Prairie. Mr. Speaker, there was consultations amongst the parties, and there's unanimous consent, I believe, in terms that the House of Commons amend the Broadcasting Act to set a minimum investment threshold for creation and production of no less than 40% for original French language production and no less than 5% for original Indigenous language production. Since this is a hybrid session of the House of Commons, for the sake of clarity, I would ask only those who are opposed to this motion to express their disagreement. Therefore, those opposed to the honourable motion, please say nay. We do not have unanimous consent.
Daily tabling of documents. Dépôt de projet de loi émanant du gouvernement.
Introduction of government bills.
Statements by ministers. Reports from interparliamentary delegations. The Honourable Member for Glengarry Prescott Russell.
Merci beaucoup, Monsieur le Président.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Pursuant to Standing Order 31.4, I have the pleasure of tabling a report from the Canadian branch of the Assemblée parlementaire de la Francophonie, a report on the Canadian branch on the AFP Education, Communication of Cultural Affairs Committee, and the APF report of Parliamentary Women, and the second report from the Canadian branch of the Assemblée parlementaire de la Francophonie, report of the Canadian branch of the Assemblée parlementaire,